this is an interesting waveform here. I'm going to pause it for a moment. Obviously we can't hear. Look at this waveform real quick. Now we've seen this waveform before. So normally during the pulse on time, we would have this right here, and then slingshot back down. During the off time, slingshot back up, and then power on time again. Here we kind of have the opposite, where we have during the off time we have the unipolar pulse. We have during the on time the slingshot back up, and then during the pulse off time that positive pulse created there again. Again, kind of reversed than what we had normally. My only difference here is that for my bifilar inductor here, I've got two bifilar wound coils, opposite direction of each other. Inductor A here is connected in a dual mode, not a bifilar mode. This inductor B here is wired in a bifilar mode. So that's the big difference here on the positive and the negative. Let's look at that one more time. That's the waveform, but kind of an inverse reaction. Rather than during pulse on time, it's created during pulse off time. Interesting. Hold on. Here we go. If we can go even higher on that frequency. Currently 89 volts, 96 volts, 97, 98, 99. Got 100 volts here. 106, 7, 8, 111. We're about maxing out at 112. This is 3.7 kilohertz right now. 40% duty cycle. That's our consumption at 16 volts. We're only 16 volts. We got 110. Wow. Interesting. We're going to crank this higher. Really between, what was it? It's 110 volts at the cell right now. It's 115 volts, so we go way up in voltage and consumption for negligible amount of voltage increase to the cell. But these are the cells right now, producing some, nothing crazy, at 113 volts at that waveform. Reducing the duty pulse, we're getting a little bit higher, 116. We're at 26% duty cycle now. Cells are producing just a little bit more.
This is Stan's Revenge.
Quick video of my setup before I go switching things up again. I have discovered that this part of the matrix switcher that allows me to switch between a dual winding mode and a bifilar mode of operation for whatever reason is not working correctly. I've even tested it and the circuit is correct, but for some reason when it's hooked up something happens. We don't get the waveform that we need to. So instead we have it forcibly bifilar wound, or connected rather, bifilar mode, just by, you can see here, joining the positive end of one winding with the negative end of the other winding. And we get a great waveform that way. Standard, just bifilar wound secondary winding, I believe, what was it, 7 times back and forth. Here's my inductors. Single wound, opposite direction, layered on top of one of another. I want to say it was 80 winds. Don't quote me on that. This is just a kind of diode in out snubber circuit. Standard Russian high voltage diode. Hold up. The VIC matrix switcher and its configuration. My cells, my oscilloscope. Let's go. That's our waveform. That's our production across 6 cells, 36 individual tubes, 4-inch tubes, 1/2-inch outer diameter, I believe, about a 1 millimeter gap, about 120 volts across the cell, only consuming 132 milliamps. Currently 2.25 kilohertz, only 19% duty cycle, as you can see represented by that yellow pulse on time right there. The pulse, essentially, the positive pulses are created during the off period, which you kind of see in some of Sand's patents, which I might get into later, as far as the duty or the pulse itself. But yeah, some production. My ball there is just barely bumping, consuming 3.1 amps at 29 volts. But yeah, you can see we've achieved excellent pulse during the off time, saving us many amps, consuming something like the third of the amps to get the same voltage across the cell. That's pretty remarkable. But it's not the equal opposite polarity trademark waveform that we want. However, we have seen this waveform before, just before we've got the equal opposite polarity pulse. So if some adjustments are made to the inductor, I believe, or balancing of that waveform at the transformer, I believe we can get the previously seen equal opposite polarity pulses that were on the on time during the off time here.
This is Stan's Revenge.